NFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatterspodcast1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break. What time is that coming over you? You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Good afternoon. It is an early NUFC Matters and it is Talk of the Toon, and it is a welcome back to Sid after a couple of weeks sabbatical, mate. I know you've had a few issues in your personal life, mate, but great to have you back on. How are you?
Hello, good to be back. No, I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. Yeah, just a sad time, but good to be back. Delighted to be back, in fact.
Great stuff. Well, you have had plenty of people asking after you, and Joe Allen did a
Thank you very much.
standing in for you, which was big thanks to Joe. Joe will be back on later this week. But Sid, the prophet, I'm going to call you, the NUFC Matters prophet, who said if we get to a cup final, we've got to play Liverpool and we've got to beat them because that is the benchmark. Beating Liverpool will also exercise the ghost of 74. The 74 Cup final defeat, of course. Well, Sid, it's not very often dreams become reality, mate, but it did.
Get ahead, you bugger. Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I was there. It was just incredible. I mean, we all went with a sense of trepidation, of course, because obviously we're playing against Liverpool. But as I've mentioned a number of times, my first ever game that I recall was watching the 74 Cup final with a little black and white rosette on and black and white strip on and predicting we'd lose, and we did, unfortunately. But now we're back, and it's exercised. I think is exactly the phrase. It was one of those things. I feel like to quote the Star Wars or paraphrase, the circle is complete. But it's no, it was incredible from start to finish. It was one of those, you went there with the real. I think the West Ham game was the turner in terms of me thinking, oh, I quite fancy it, and then being on the tube, we're in the pubs, full of Newcastle fans, virtually no Liverpool fans, a couple of Liverpool fans in the corner, and the good bit of banter between both fans. Can I just say as well, Liverpool fans were fantastic after the game, really, really good, which was spot on. Absolutely well done to them for congratulating us and everything. But we're going at the pub and there was just noise. It was black and white noise everywhere. And then get on the tube. And I was next to a couple of scousers on the tube. And we're like rammed on and we're like holding on like that. And all you heard was Newcastle fans chanting. And I'll not swear, but the guys were going, bloody hell, it's like being at St. James's Park. This has come from the scousers. And then when you got at the ground, got my seats early, we're typically back right, literally the last row. So I was at the last row at the top of the corner. And it was brilliant. We had a great view. And the atmosphere was just unbelievable. I mean, I've been to some incredible noisy games like Barcelona, Leicester City 7-1, the Keegan promotion era. And I think that was the loudest I've ever heard the fans. It was just unbelievable. It really was. I'm overusing the phrase, but it was just incredible. The whole twirling of the scarves and the crowd were up for it. You could barely hear the Liverpool fans at all. The booing of "You Never Walk Alone" was really funny. I just drowned them out. And then I was talking to the guy. I was talking to one of my mates next to us. There was another guy two along from me who I didn't know. The guy who was supposed to be next to me just came for 20 minutes and then vanished. No idea where he went. And then the guy I have no idea where he went. And then the guy in front of me, so we were all having little mini conversations watching the game, talking about it. And then it was, as I say, you just couldn't hear the Liverpool fans at all. The noise was just phenomenal. It was just an incredible atmosphere. But I said to the guys, we'll know within 5 minutes whether Newcastle are going to turn up. And they turned up immediately. You know, there were the challenges were in straight away. Joe Linton was everywhere. Tonali just covered all the field, mopping everything up. It was one in the midfield for me. I thought our midfield was the better midfield, and that was always going to be the case, wasn't it? It was going to be the battle of the two best midfields in the Premier League, and ours won convincingly as well. I thought they were, to a man, every player was exceptional. I thought Barnes had a terrific game actually, and he was my big doubt. I thought the goalkeeping call was a huge call, not the one I would have picked. I was open about it. I would have picked Dubravka, but I have to say Nick Pope was fantastic. Did some great punches, a great save as well. So he was, Eddie Howe obviously vindicated with his decision because it was a big call. It was an absolute big call. And I thought Tino Livramento, magnificent. I mean, to play against possibly the best player in the world and just tuck him up was remarkable. He just tucked them up in his back pocket and had him there all game. Burn, what a goal. It was, again, sensational. It was one of those great goals as well. And I always say this, when a great goal goes in, there's always a split-second silence before everybody realizes what's happened. And there was that split-second silence when it hit the back of the net and everyone just went mental and they jumped up. And then just everybody hugging each other and we didn't, it was fabulous. And then obviously, the next goal with Isak, I thought the disallowed goal should have stood. I think if keeper can save it, why is it disallowed? I don't understand that. I didn't think he was that much into his eyesight either. So they got away with one, but of course, rectified 2 minutes later with Isak's fantastic finish. It was an all-round great goal, great cross, great header down by Murphy, incredible finish. We deserve to win. There's no ifs or buts about it. No Liverpool fan I spoke to afterwards had any gripes. I thought when they conceded towards the end, we were bricking it. No, because we felt if we didn't win that game at that point, you're never going to win one, and especially against Liverpool, because our record is so bad against Liverpool. And as I've said, and you said at the beginning of the show, it's the one that puts to bed the end of, as I say, once you beat Liverpool, that is it. I think you've arrived as a team, and I think we have now arrived as a team. We've won a major domestic trophy, did it in style. We've played all of the big boys. I mean, it was incredible, isn't it? You look at the teams we've played, people are forgetting Brentford. I mean, there's an argument, Brentford was really tough. Wimbledon, that was quite, if I remember rightly, that was quite a tough game. But
yeah,
obviously, Forest was a really hard game. I think that was probably the hardest of all the games, ironically. Arsenal, who were walked past, and then obviously Liverpool. I mean, that is some going. It really is. So nobody can say that we've not deserved it. We've done it the hardest way. I don't think there's ever been a team so far that's beaten the top four to win to win the trophy. So well done. And it's what's also impressive is the kudos of the trophy's gone back up again over the last 10 years with the European sort of position. And if you notice, all the teams have won it now, they've all been big teams in the last 10, 12 years. You know, you've got your, you know, it's Man City, Liverpool, us, you know, and so on and so forth. So it's just great. I mean, as I say, we've all said we'd love to live long enough to see us win a trophy. And at the end, of course, when the final whistle went, it was that sense of disbelief.
Yeah.
Paul, who is not an emotional guy, who was standing next to us at the match, actually hugged us. That was like, wow, that's unusual. Me and Brian's in his 70s there, we were bouncing up and down. I had tears in my eyes. I was thinking of my father-in-law as well, who just passed a couple of weeks ago, because he was a fan, but he would never watch the game. He always listened on the he'd listen to John Anderson on the radio. He would have listened rather than watched it on the TV. I'm sure that's what he would have done. So you have all of those sort of feelings, and like friends who've missed it as well, of course, through various things, and who are no longer here. And it was just amazing. And so you welled up and all the rest of it. Happy to see you so. And that just sense of elation. And then the post-match celebrations, you saw Murphy run around with a trophy, and all the players just going absolutely berserk. Everybody, all the squad. You know, and I remember at the time when they lifted the trophy, and we all obviously went crackers. But I was thinking, oh, I wish Lascelles had been there to lift it as well. You couldn't see him from where I was, that he was the third person behind the other two lifting the trophy. And I thought that was such a classy gesture. So I don't know how he got a medal, because he's not part of the squad. So I'm wondering whether they've made him as a part of the coaching team or something.
Possibly.
And if so, what a great gesture by Eddie Howe, though, if that's the case. Because he had a medal in that, and I thought, isn't that great to see? Because he deserves a medal as much as anybody else, because he's been magnificent as a captain. You know, he was there during the real dark days. You know, when you know he stood up as well. You know, so well done to him. And you know, and if he never plays again, you know, he's going to come back as a sort of legend and all the rest of it. So top man, it was just amazing. It really was. It's the most enjoyable football game I've ever been to. So yeah, it was just remarkable. It really was absolutely remarkable to come away from Wembley finally winning. And
it does feel a little bit like, you know, when you used to clock a game on a computer set, you know, and you used to, you know, if you ever played Medal of Honor, for example, and you got to the end, you were like, well, what do I do now? You know, or your clock Donkey Kong back in the day.
I was a Space Invaders, man.
Oh, there we go. Well, you clock that. Does it feel a little bit like that to you?
It's what do we do now? Because we're not used to winning. I mean, we've never won, so we've never won anything in my lifetime up to that point. I was only very young when the first cup, so it doesn't count. So yeah, I was absolutely, as I say, just buzzing, and it is now. We have to make this count now. That was the first, not that was an exception. And what I'd like to see, yes, all in favour of, you know, people having a big celebration and all the rest of the weekend. But what I don't want to see is in future having big celebrations during the middle of the season. If you've won stuff, do it at the end, because I want it to be the norm. I want it to be a sort of regular occurrence, and that we win stuff, and that we're not just some sort of team who think, right, we've won once, let's celebrate it for the next 30 years. I want this to be on a frequent basis now, where we win once a year, once every other year, or whatever, or every 2-3 years. And that's something that would be amazing. It would be absolutely amazing, because I think the league as well is getting harder. There are more and more teams able to compete now, like Villa, you know, which is great. I think you'll see the likes of, you might see Everton come up as well now that they've got a bit of money to spend. So it can only do the Premier League well as well, and hopefully, you know, erode those 6 clubs who seem to dominate everything, you know. And well, I don't really, because Spurs haven't won for 30 years now. So, but you know what I mean, or whatever it is. But you know what I mean. So just change the face of football. So magnificent. Yeah, I'm expecting it to be normal. And what's next? What's next? Well, for me, next is try and get the Champions League, and next year have a big title contenders. I don't think that's unrealistic. I don't.
Yeah, just concentrating on the cup final. Well, you know, Just want to know who your man of the match was. I mean, there was lots of potential contenders. You named a few players there as you were going through your assessment of the game. But I mean, was the one player, if you had to give that award to, it was Dan Burn, of course, on the match day. Who was your man of the match?
It was Joe Linton for me. It was Joe Linton. He was just everywhere. I thought Tonali was magnificent, and he is the catalyst. I think he's our most important player. I know people might say it's Isaac, and that's absolutely fine. But I think he's our most important player. I think he's our most complete player. But Joe Linton was he was incredible. I mean, it was coming away in the Liverpool fans were chatting and saying, we couldn't believe him. He was just so strong. He's so dominant. And he's, and they can't get their heads around him because he's such a unique player. I don't recall seeing that type of player. We've seen the likes of Vieira and I forgot the guy who played for Man City as well, but they were different again, and he's a very different type of player. We've not seen a player like that in our time as Newcastle fans.
No.
He's so unusual. He's not a player I think you can replace like for like either in years to come, because he's possibly only got 2 years left, I would suggest. So you'd probably have to go a different type of player and a different style, maybe. Yeah, Tonali. I don't have any problems with Tonali being man of the match. He was absolutely magnificent, and I think he's probably my next player that I would have had. But I just thought Big Joe, everything was, everything was epitomized by the fact that challenge when he ran 40, 50 yards and just took the ball off their player and just started to run and then got fouled. And I thought, wow, we were like going just nuts. We were a huge round of applause. Obviously, nobody sat during the whole of the game. We were just told everybody was standing during the whole of the game. That big sign coming up, please sit down. Bongers. But he to me was the man who just sort of captured everything. I thought Dan Burn was an incredible story, of course, with the goal, and he was a superb performance. So I have no problem if people go Dan Burn or Tonali or whoever it may be, or Bruno or whatever. But for me, it was Joe Linton. I just thought he sort of epitomised everything that was good about our performance: the determination, the drive, going forward, not being prepared to be beaten. But again, I could have picked Livramento as well, who was sensational, But Joe, I think, had that role of also protecting Livramento. And I'm not denigrating Livramento at all. He was just, his role was to help protect him as well on that left side. And just outstanding performance. And they're singing the 40 million song, which is great. It's one of the best chants around, isn't it? He's Brazilian. He was my man of the match. Deservedly so, I think, as well.
Where in your mind now, and this is a question we've discussed on here with everybody who does the show, where does this put Eddie Howe then? I have said that it puts him directly behind Joe Harvey now, because he's won a trophy. When you look at what Eddie's done in his first few years at the club, saved us from relegation, got us into the Champions League, got us into a cup final, which we lost, got us to a cup final, which we've won. I genuinely think he jumps over the top of Bobby Robson and Kevin Keegan for me.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because it's hard. I find it hard to compare. I mean, I'm not a fan of having statues for managers. I really don't that's not for me, but there you have it. Because Joe Harvey hasn't got one and he won something, is my point.
But on paper, where does he stand to you? Has he leapfrogged Keegan and Sir Bobby?
I'm not sure, because Keegan, for me, it's hard to say, because Keegan restored the club. He brought the club from the edge of death, as far as I'm concerned, and brought it back up to a certain height. And without him, we wouldn't be where we are currently, in my opinion. However, as a manager, if you were asking me who would I prefer to have on a day-to-day basis, then I would probably pick Eddie Howe over him, just because of the fact that I think he's tactically brilliant. I think he's done a real job on both teams. Arsenal and Liverpool is some achievement. And also, when I worked it out the other day, and I thought, out of the if you did a combined team between the Entertainers and the current Newcastle team there, that final team, or if you include Gordon as well, how many of the Entertainers would make the team? And it was an odd one when I was thinking about it, because I thought, well, I'd probably pick Pope, and I'd definitely pick Trippier, and I would definitely pick Hall if he was fit, but obviously he wasn't. And then in the middle, I would definitely probably pick Philip Albert, but then I would probably go with Cher, So there's one. You've got one with Albert, and then in the middle, it depends on which way the formation is, of course. But in the middle, Bielsa has to be because he's the greatest player we've ever had. And then Alan Shearer would get in. But then after that, I'm thinking probably Ginola, and that's it from that team. Robley wouldn't get in for me. Gillespie certainly wouldn't get in. And I don't count Solano as being part of that team, although otherwise he would definitely make it. And the others wouldn't make it from midfield, as good as they were. And certainly up front, Les probably, even though I love him, and he's the best player I've ever seen in the air, wouldn't get in ahead of Isaac. So, yeah, that's basically the way I'd put it. Don't get us wrong. I'd probably have somebody in ahead of Murphy on the right. Maybe squeeze Robert Lee in on the right if you had to, from that era. But, so the current team is better than that team, in my opinion, is a man-for-man team. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
So I'd put him in there. Where would I put him? Probably, it's hard. It's so hard to compare managers with Joe Harvey. I know I'm sitting on the fence here, but I'll just take the creosote off. But it's very difficult to compare Joe Harvey, who Joe Harvey probably picks it still for me because of the fact that he was captain of the club for two cup winning tournaments, got them promoted, and won a European competition. But then again, Eddie Howe kept us when we were literally nailed on to go down that season. If we'd kept our previous manager, he might argue otherwise, judging by the current headlines. And then.
I just genuinely think that Eddie Howe, because he's won that trophy, I think it's easy. I think he surpassed Sir Bobby and he surpassed KK. KK, we're not talking about his playing career at Newcastle, where of course he came and did it twice. He came as a player and a manager, but ultimately didn't win anything for Newcastle. But he did turn the club round and change the club's fortunes. Yep. So Bobby came in and kept Newcastle up in a season where we could have easily, ended up slipping through that relegation trapdoor again, and then gave us an exciting football team. Unfortunately, fell at the semi-final hurdles in cup competition. So, it's again taking sentimentality away from it. We know he was a wonderful ambassador for the area. We know that if he'd come after Keegan, it might have been a different story.
Yeah, it would have been, wouldn't it? Yeah.
But ultimately, he didn't win a trophy. You've touched on it, so let's just have a little chat about that. Yeah, Dwight Gale came out this week and in an interview in a podcast. I did watch the podcast. They were very mischievous asking him these questions, and of course he gave some honest answers. Well, Steve Bruce bit didn't he? He bit this week in his replies.
It's really funny and all the various, he's got all his mates out in the industry again, coming up, backing him up, haven't they? But to be fair, Dwight Gale's not the only player to have come out and bemoaned Steve Bruce's training. We've all seen the 2-3 different players who've come out and made various comments. So it's just really funny to watch. He's just whining on. I mean, his record was terrible. Yes, he kept us up, and he hopped. And he always likes to denigrate other people at times as well. I remember having a pop at Rafa, and then when we got Eddie Howe, he made some point about him being the man who got the team relegated. And if you go by the accounts in the press, he has no bigger supporter of himself, does he, than himself? Not for me. And I said on this when we did on our ranking shows, he was the worst manager I've seen at the club. I've seen worse football, in my opinion, of course. In my opinion, I'm sure statistics might say otherwise, because Sam Allardyce was the worst football I've seen at the club. But Bruce was just terrible, in my opinion. I just didn't like anything that we played. He was awful. That season, for me, we were going down. I saw us have no chance of staying up until Eddie Howe came in. And yes, he bought some players, but you could already see at that point he was changing the style of football, and everything was changing, and they looked a bit fitter and had a bit more about them. And it was almost like a car going 70 miles an hour, slowing right down and then turning round and doing something else. And that's basically the analogy that I would go with, because we were plummeting down. He got the handbrake on, stopped us from going on the edge, and then turned us round and did an incredible job. And his record overall as a manager is just remarkable. Remarkable at our club, but remarkably, he took a club over, I think they were 90th or 92nd or whatever in the league, and took them up to the Premier League. That's remarkable. That really is. Yes, he had a bad time at Burnley, but he had personal issues that were really bad. His mother passed away, I believe. And you could say that about Brian Clough, man. Brian Clough lasted at Leeds for 40-odd days, 40-something days, because they didn't give him a chance, And sometimes clubs fit you, and sometimes they don't, And you can, look at David Moyes at Sunderland.
Yeah.
You could talk about what happened with Moyes, and people don't talk about Moyes at Man United now because of the fact that all the others have come in and failed there as well. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he did a really good job at West Ham. He's done a fantastic job going back to Everton. So, sometimes certain clubs work for you, and it works. It's the same as a footballer. Dennis Bergkamp was a flop. I think, was it Inter Milan he was at?
Yeah.
And then he went to Arsenal and was a world-class footballer. That's just sometimes the way it works. It's like certain jobs you have as well. Sometimes you go for a job and it just doesn't work for you. You go somewhere else and it's brilliant, and that's just the way it works. I can't say that about Steve Bruce, though.
Yes, I think that one will run and run. Steve Bruce is a legend in his own house, that's for certain. And
Dwight Gale, yeah, I've got a lot of time with Dwight Gale. He took us up. He banged them in that league. Yes, he's very much like Adam Armstrong, great in that league, and he just can't quite get to that top level. He's somewhere he's at like the top of the championship, very bottom end of the Premier League in terms of quality. But he seems like a nice lad. So yeah, funny.
Okay, halfway through the show, time for the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk, email info@mrvickies.co.uk, or telephone 01768 210 102. A big thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. All excursions included. Find them at their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email them at beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. You can find them at their website, media-arts.co.uk. If you want to listen to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network. You can also find us on iTunes, Spotify, and your other podcast providers. If you want to help support the channel, hit the thumb up, which is the like button. Click share to share to your other social medias. Click join to join the channel. And click the subscribe button. We've also got links in our description for buy us a coffee and to be a Patreon member. Some events coming up. An afternoon with Sir Les Ferdinand, 6th of April, 12 till 4. Tickets available from ticketmaster.co.uk. No Covers takes place at the Cluny, Lilac Lane, Ryder and the Chris Norris Band. Tickets from theclooney.com or by telephone in 0191 230 4474. An evening with Steve Howie and Steve Watson, hosted by Joe Allen, takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 27th of June. Tickets for that are from newcastlelegends.com. An evening with Peter Beardsley and Chris Waddle takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House on the 23rd of January 2026. Box office 0844 246 1000 or website Tyne Theatre and Opera House.tv. An Evening with Bad Manners takes place on Friday the 30th of January 2026 and tickets available from ticketmaster.co.uk. And we have copies of The Entertainers 1992 to 1997 Kevin Keegan's Legacy available from newcastlelegends.com. And it's a big welcome to Rob. How are you, mate?
Hey, gents. Are you all right?
Good to see you, Rob.
Good to see you. Said you've been missed. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Good stuff.
How are you both? You all right?
All good, mate. Yeah, all very
Yeah.
good this end. As always, you're here to bring us a little bit of music, and here's the album you won't be reviewing this week. No Fire Boys, Just Hose My Hole.
Beautiful.
Is that another real album?
Yes, it is. Next week's better. Yeah.
Next week's
Yep.
better.
Yeah.
All right. What are you bringing us today then, Rob?
So this was suggested 2 weeks ago. It's by a Scottish band formed in Dunfermline called Nazareth. I just chose this one. They've got 24 studio albums. So I just chose this one because I like the cover. Again, like I say, formed in Dunfermline 1968 when Fife used to be called Fim and Dunfermline used to be the capital of Scotland. So it opens with Never Dance with the Devil, nice sort of typical classic rock mid-tempo opener. Vocal range is unbelievable on this one. I think he was the ex-vocalist of Crocus. I think he's 55 years old now. It's classic old school rock again. Really, really brilliant guitar solo on this one as well. But Tattooed on My Brain, more catchy. I wasn't expecting this one. Again, I'm saying it's a good worthy replacement for the late Dan McCarthy. Really good. It's got more of a grunge edge to this one. Again, quite modern, but mixed with old school classic rock. State of Emergency. If you've got 1984 album by Van Halen, it did remind me of Hot Teacher. Yeah, it's like snappy, sharp.
Song.
Yeah, the intro of that is very, very similar, but really, really good. Again, straight classic rock drum in. Great song. The vocal range, I can't get over it. If you like Miles Kennedy, up there with him, I would say. The energy as well. It's just constant in your face. Here's another one in your face. Have this again. It's just constant. Then you've got Rubik's Romance. This is like more of a blues romantic metal number. It's okay, but that band, Extreme, it's a bit like that. Or Poison was Every Rose Has Its Thorn, that sort of thing. But that's not for me. Then you got Pole to Pole. This again is going back into the classic again. Nice fuzz distortion on the guitar. Got heavy, loose bass strings, really gallopy, really good. So like Steve Harris-ish from Maiden. Good driving song, that one, windows down, etc. Good tempo, really, really solid. And without saying solid, I have to say Ashford and Simpson. It really, really is. It's really good. Then you've got Push, again, nice blues slide guitar on this. A bit Dead or Alive by Bon Jovi. Nice vocal effect on this one as well. It's been layered about 50 times, but it's really, really good. It works really well. There's something a little bit different in each of these songs. You've got The Secret. Again, another slide guitar intro. It's a wee bit too close to the above for Push, but again, there's more punchy in the bass. So again, the drums solid. It's just constant and a very, very well produced album, song by song. Then you got Don't Throw Your Love Away. I make no apologies, but I hear different influences. I can hear Love in the Elevator by Aerosmith on this one. Again, a good thing. That's standard. Again, really good guitar intro on this one. The rhythm guitar on this, I don't know who he is, but not as good as Malcolm Young, but it's absolutely brilliant, but really noticeable. Again, really good backing vocals on this one as well. Good harmonies. You got Crazy Molly. It's a catchy, offbeat bass and drums. Good songs. I like dirty rhythm guitar, but it's sort of snazzy. I really enjoyed this one. It's more of a fun track for me. You got Silent Symphony. again, gritty, open guitar chords, flat 4 drum beats. Again, brilliant recording on this. Simple, effective, powerful. And again, the vocals, unbelievable. They got Change. It's got a bit of a more of a Nirvana vibe again. I wasn't expecting it. Great bass playing again. A good story bass track, mid-tempo, brilliant radio-friendly chorus. Now, your last song was called You Call Me. And it is, again, I keep saying this, it's the end of the song album again. It's slow, sultry, moody, but I can hear sort of like a bit of an Eric Clapton influence on this one. But there's only like 3 songs in it I'm not too keen on. I didn't know a lot of Nazareth. I've obviously heard of them. I've been to the library in Dunfermline, but they do have a section of Nazareth memorabilia along with Stuart Adamson's, one of his guitars on the wall and some memorabilia. But I wanted to choose something that maybe who suggested this hadn't heard of this album. It's the 24th album, and I am aware that the late singer gave the blessing for Carol to be the vocalist, as did Bon Scott with Brian Johnson. So yeah, I'm sure you're going to get people. It's not the same. It's not Nazareth. Absolutely brilliant vocals on this. Very fresh. You know, it's still got that classic rock feel to it. But it's getting an 8.5 out of 10. So yeah, that's called Tattooed on My Brain, the 24th studio album. And yeah, definitely 8.5 out of 10 for me. Now, going on to next week, do you remember, Sid, I sent you a message saying, what album would you like to do, but you would struggle to do it? So, you know, like a personal one. So I'm going to go for that next week. I'm just, for me, this guy, massive influential, he soaked his mind and brain into like Beckett, Pinter, Hopeless Romantic, Elvis from Hell, Murder Ballads. I think you or Steve said those a few weeks ago, Murder Ballads.
Yeah.
Swampy Punk Blues, and he's an insane genius. And I've never ever seen him, and I never will get to see him. But yeah, looking forward to next week.
Great stuff. Thank you for that, Rob. And don't forget, if you have got any suggestions for Rob and his album review, stick them in the comments below or stick them in the comments in the chat, and we will pick them up and Rob will review them over the course of the next few weeks. Sid, over to you.
Yeah, I've gone old school soul, and I've gone with Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, which is an absolute killer of an album. Came out in 1971. It's one of those rare groundbreaking albums, like an album that literally did change the scene for a lot of artists. Mm-hmm. Recorded during 1970, and the album's mainly written from the perspective of Marvin's brother, Frankie. Frankie had served for the US Army in Vietnam, and he'd just come back from Vietnam. And a lot of the album is from his perspective. So Marvin Gaye is like commenting upon the folly of the war. But it's a very social, political album. It's an album that Berry Gordy allegedly didn't want to release at the time. He claims otherwise, but certain accounts say so. So Marvin Gaye held the album back for a bit until he finally was prepared to release it. And it's now Berry Gordy's favourite album, apparently. It sort of focuses on the idea of, like, for example, the racist situation with the USA, police brutality, the ghettos, the corrupt state of the country. I mean, this is 1971. And also Marvin Gaye talks so unusually about the ecological mess of the planet. So he's well ahead of the times. It really is an incredible album. The album pleads for peace, love, save the world, and so on and so forth. But it does it in a very tasteful way, not in a cheesy way. The album's like a circular suite of music. You can't just play one or two tracks from it. You've got to play it from start to finish. One of those very rare albums that you do that in some respects. The title track was composed by Ronaldo Benson with Marvin Gaye who's also in the Four Tops, of course. Yeah, great song, 110th Street's a classic. Love that. We've also so I'm not going to talk about individual tracks because it's just so difficult to do so, because what Marvin does really so well on it is they all blend from one track into the next. So there's a lovely sort of move from one to the other. There's no real individual gaps from single to single or song to song. They blend from one track to the other. So as I say, it is a proper suite. I mean, this is the album really which allowed Stevie Wonder to branch out and do his thing in the 70s with those series of incredible albums because of Marvin's pioneering album. I mean, the album's got like a jazz funk groove throughout it. It is really incredible, a bit like the band War to a point as well. I mean, there are some highlights on the album, of course. You've got What's Going On, Flying High, Save the Children, Mercy, Mercy Me, which was a hit elsewhere as well. Holy, Holy, Inner City Blues Makes You Want to Holler, sort of encapsulates the album and the themes all in that one song alone. It's remarkable. The musicianship is incredible. You've got like the Funk Brothers, who are the Motown backing band on most of it. So James Jameson's bass playing is just nuts. Apparently, it was so high that for the big chunk of the album that he's on, he was lying on the floor on his back playing the bass. He was so out of it. Yeah, his bass playing is just remarkable when you hear it. You think, wow, how can you actually play that? And he's Paul McCartney's favourite bass player. Yeah. I mean, Curtis Mayfield released a couple of great albums at the same time as well. Superfly is an incredible album. But this, for me, is the one that changed everything for everybody. And he looks so cool with that jacket on the front as well. And the back was brilliant. Just what a voice. What a voice he's got. Had sadly Marvin Gaye. What a voice. Incredible singer. And can I just say as well, his next album, Let's Get It On, is as good, if not better, but that's sort of really his sex album, if you like. But it's amazing. It's an amazing album. It really is. So he went on a run of 2 or 3 incredible albums, one after the other. So yeah, brilliant. 5 stars all day long. One of the greatest albums ever made, in my opinion. What's Going On? And then I picked the film. Another bit of a tribute chat to my friend Simon, who sadly passed away. And so I've gone with the film Stan and Ollie, which is just a fabulous tribute by Steve Coogan and John C. Reilly. It's so loving. I mean, it's a beautiful and lovely made tribute based on their latter years of the 1953 tour of the UK and Ireland. I mean, they've taken some liberties with the truth a little bit, but not massively. I mean, yes, the woman who plays Stan's wife wasn't really his wife at the time. It was a different woman. And the character of Nobby Cook, who's in it, is fictitious because he doesn't appear. And there's also a scene where Stan and Ollie fight, but in real life, they never had an argument, not a single argument, which is remarkable, really. But it's also a reminder that they are, without a doubt, for me, the greatest comedy duo. Just amazing. Coogan's loving touch of the characters is superb. It's really, really well done. I love the fact that Stan, clearly a genius, proud of his Tyneside roots because he lived here for a number of years. As I've said, my great-grandfather worked for his dad, bizarrely. And when he used to write to people in the Northeast, right up to his death, he wrote to various people in the Northeast. He'd always put a few Geordie phrases into his postcards and his letters. So he's very, very proud of where he was from. The film also starts in Newcastle, down by the quayside, which is great to see. It's just a lovely, lovely film. I mean, John C. Reilly apparently used to have to spend 4 hours a day getting into the Oliver Hardy prosthetics, which is
wow.
Yeah. But what's lush as well is at the end, they put the proper Laurel and Hardy dance sequence on at the end, which is just glorious. And as I say, my friend Simon sadly passed recently, but at the funeral, they played the Laurel and Hardy music. And then they played the Trail of the Lonesome Pine. It's funny, poignant, loving. And so there we go. That was for Simon. Just a great, great film. If you get the chance to see it, watch it. It's just magnificent. So there we go.
Great stuff. As always, I will do my little update on what I've been listening to in no particular order. I listened to Elbow, the Seldom Seen Kid, which is part of my album challenge, a different artist and different album each day. I heard a few off this album. I haven't listened to the full album before, which is part of the remit. I love The Bones of You, An Audience with a Pope and Friend of Ours. They were my favourite tracks on that particular album. There's one or two as well. People saying, you must have listened to that, Steve. You must have listened to that. But believe you me, I haven't listened to any of these albums that I'm listening to. Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill acoustic album. I have listened to Jagged Little Pill, the album. I had a lot of comments, people saying they'd listened to this on cassette. Tells you how old it is. Jagged Little Pill acoustic. It is a really good album. Very easy listening. I loved Right Through You, Hand in My Pocket, obviously, and Ironic, which are the well-known songs that she did, but really, really good. This was really good. This is a James album called Yummy Pudding. Take your pick off this album. Is This Love, Rogue, and Stay. But to be honest, I love the whole album. It's an absolute classic. One of the more recent albums. Something a little bit different, and well worth. Love the album cover as well. This one is a classic. You guys must have listened to this one, have you, lads? American Beauty by the Grateful Dead. Truckin', Attics of My Life, and Candyman, probably the standouts on this album for me. Wasn't what I was expecting, to be perfectly honest. I'll have to give the Grateful Dead maybe a little bit more of a listen over the course of the next few weeks, but that was enjoyable. The Band, again, Rag Mama Rag, The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down, and Whispering Pines were the tracks that I picked out on this one. The album that I didn't enjoy this week, and again, you probably would have thought as a jam head, I would have listened to this, was this one, Touch Sensitive by Bruce Foxton.
Ah, yes.
Oh my God, this is painful, this Sid. I didn't enjoy it at all. In fact, I struggled to find three songs that I could genuinely say that I liked. 25 or 6 to 4. I mean, what the hell's it about? But that was okay. Get Ready was all right. And Are You Ready? But honestly, it wasn't the greatest of albums. You can see why he was best known for being in the Jam. Certainly better in the Jam, not a solo artist. I'm glad he didn't really follow that up with a whole host of other albums. Certainly Paul Weller left him in the wake.
He had a hit with Freak. I think that was about it, wasn't it?
Awful. I don't even. And that was the only song that I'd heard on the album. It was absolutely awful. I'm glad I didn't buy it. Put it that way. Great stuff, Rob. As always, I'm sure you got plenty of ideas. I've seen 1 or 2 in the chat there from people.
Yes.
Look forward to seeing you next week, pal.
Okay, thank you.
Take care, man. Lovely to see you.
And you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Robert Maltman, our designer, good to see you, mate. He says, Stan and Ollie is an amazing movie. JCR was my tip for an Oscar that year. Marvin Gaye, a complete soul legend amongst many other legends. I love the soul sounds, especially Northern Soul, says Jason. Billy says, I'll never forget Stan and Ollie's song on the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. Billy, classic that. And a Chicago album. There you go, Rob. I'm sure you'll still be listening. Says
The
Jeff.
other ones are really good, actually. Yeah,
that would be nice. So there we go. Let's just go with something that's in the chat, mate. Really, Darren Lee mentioned this earlier. He says, "I'm fed up with hearing about Isak wanting to join Liverpool. Rubbish. Deep down, does Isak want to move? Isak looks happy at the club. He might not have the same success on the pitch elsewhere." And this really, after the cup final, in particular on social media, within hours, it was tug of war between Liverpool and Arsenal for Isak's signature. Talk about sour grapes from those who write in the media, mate.
It's terrible. I mean, as I say, I don't think you go anywhere at least for a year. I don't. If I were the club, I would say no, irrespective. Edwin Starr, great. I would say regardless. They've got 3 years left. He's got 3 years. Make him do one more. So that would be my argument. I don't see him going anywhere this summer. I really don't. No. I mean, one Arsenal sideways move, in my opinion. And I predicted at the beginning of the season Newcastle would win the League Cup, and I said we'd come third. And I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with third. Yeah. And I don't see Arsenal being a step above. I don't. Liverpool's maybe a slightly different scenario, but then they might be without Salah, they might be without Van Dijk, and they're certainly out without Trent by the sounds of it. So there are 3 big players gone, and the joke of us getting their centre forward is an absolute farce, isn't it? He might do all right in Newcastle. It's really patronising, isn't it? I mean, for me, the only clubs he can probably go to in the future would be Real Madrid. Barcelona can't afford him; they've got no money. Is in PSG. Possibly Bayern Munich, they may be the other exception. So there's 3 clubs. I would be gutted if I see him go to another Premier League club, which I don't see happening. And I'd be more than all right if he went elsewhere, like in Europe. I could live with that. But I'd prefer him to stay for another 5 years and us win everything in sight. And I don't see why that can't now be an option. I don't see that. I don't see why it can't be. And I think his eyes are opening up to it a little bit. And all this rubbish of, we had lip readers in terms of what he's saying to Van Dijk and he's doing this, that, and the other afterwards and talking about, like, what a load of old tripe, man. You know, what a load. And Gary Neville going there, he could go and play for Man United. This isn't 1999 anymore. You know, he needs to get with the program and check his watch, check which decade it is. It's just farcical, that. I mean, the last club we go to is Man United, in my opinion. So, nah. I don't see it happening. And I really think we keep him by 3 or 4 players in the summer. We go for the title next year. We'll have a real push. I'm not saying we'll win it, but we'll have a real push to go for it. I think Man City will recover. Liverpool could be in big trouble. That could be interesting. And I don't see Arsenal doing it either. So I can't see why not. Why not have a go? Yeah. I don't see him going anywhere. Top player, get him signed. Double his wages and get him signed.
I would agree with you, mate. I mean, and I just think it is very belittling of Newcastle United as a football club that people would even think that we're stuck in the 1980s where we had to sell Gascoigne, Waddle and Beardsley. This isn't those days anymore. And I think the sooner that they realise that, the better. Just to avoid disappointment, if nothing else, because these guys, have now won a trophy. We are going to be ahead of some of those teams that consider our players rich, like easy pickings. We'll have actually won something this season, Sid.
I think they think of us as being like Spurs, where in the past Spurs' best players would then go to Man United. So that like Berbatov, who was an incredible footballer, would then go and play for Man United, or Teddy Sheringham would go then play for Man United, or the defenders would go off to Man City or whatever. But that's not the same with us, and I think that's the way that they're looking at us. Thinking, all right, well, they've got some good players. They've done really well done to them. But that's their level. Let's go to the next level, and we'll go to play for such and such. And that's not going to happen. And I don't think our owners will allow that. And the words coming out that we've all seen on social media of our owner saying, under no circumstances, let him go. Nobody's going to go above the head of the chairman, are they? Nobody in their right mind is going to say, well, I'm going to ignore the chairman and just do what I want. That's not going to happen. So, the great song by Chicago, may I add. But I don't see it. It's just dross. Don't see it at all. He'll definitely stay.
Yes, Jeff, with an anagram for you. Paul Scholes as fallacies. Thank you for that, Jeff. Always coming up with some classics on the catch him on a Monday night on the forum. That's if I remember.
Yeah, Gary's nailed it.
Yeah, he certainly has. I mean, look, if this is this is our lot and we win the League Cup and we just finish in the Conference League, is that disappointing for you, Sid?
Yeah, it is. I know I'm backtracking now and I'm just sort of doing a moonwalk here on the screen metaphorically, saying that I would happily take us win the Cup and win no other games for the rest of the season. And but I want us to sort of if that doesn't boost the confidence of the players now, to think, right, we've gone on to the next level now. We've beaten every team where at some point over the last 2 years, as I say, haven't done it against Liverpool now, then what will? We've got 6 home games. We win those 6 home games. I'm not saying we will. I think there'll be a slip up at some point. But if we get 5 home wins and an away win, that to me is probably enough to get us into Champions League. I think we're going to need 65, 66 points to get the Champions League.
Yeah.
And the worry, of course, and people forget this, is that I believe if Man United or Spurs win the Europa League, they take one of the Champions League places. So if we come 5th, it gets taken away from me, because that's what happened the last time. I think it was Everton who lost out many years ago. So they have to, I think that is an issue. That's something that people seem not to be sort of thinking about. So I have to think about that carefully. So
I've got to say that's a big ask, mind. Especially in
no, it is. I agree, but you know how sporty they can be, Man United in particular. But whereas Spurs, I'd be surprised if they could win a Tyne cost, never mind win a game. But Man United, you never know. Hopefully not. Hopefully Leon or someone will win it. But that's my only concern. I mean, Forest looks like Wood's injured for a little bit. And in Arsenal, I'm going to striker. Why can't Newcastle go in and capitalise? Why not? They've got the win. They've done the most difficult thing in our lifetime. They've crossed the line. So everything else now should be a lot easier for them, and they can stride on and go forwards, to sort of metaphorically speak again. And I can't see why not. And I'm expecting them to be in the top 4 at the end of the season.
Just finishing off, finally, the details have been announced. There is going to be a bus parade through the town and then a big thing on the town moor. I'm sure it'll be a spectacular display. I'm not going to go. I'm not really up for that kind of thing. I was lucky enough to be at Wembley. I've seen the cup. I'll leave it to other people. I'll leave it to other people, and I'm sure they'll have a great time. But from your perspective, Sid, it's great, and I think as many people should be allowed to see that cup as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go into the town and see the bus. That's it. I mean, I don't want to. I was there. I've seen them win the trophy and pick it up and all that. So I don't need to. But my mate's up at the minute, and he wants to go and have a few drinks. So who am I to disagree?
Hey Sid, great to have you back, mate. Look forward to getting you on next week. Have a great week. See you next week, pal.
Take care. Thanks for the nice messages, folks. I appreciate it. Thank you.